stream is about to start. We'll talk about code or whatever we'll talk about today. It's about to start, so please hang tight while I check that everything is okay. Sound check, camera check, lights check. How's my hair? Oh, wait, I don't have any hair. Maybe put some pants on and I am good to go. So get ready wherever you are, 'cause this stream is about to start. Get ready wherever you are, 'cause this stream is about to start. Hi, my name is Leandro fucking Edgy, and let's write some code together, shall we? What we have on the menu today is Arya's website. How are you doing, Arya?
I'm good. How are you? Good to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you. So, I'm doing well. And before we jump into the new website stuff that we are going to do today, which is mostly going to be the tags and using dates to sort posts and that sort of thing. But before we get into that, you had an idea for an audio effect. So tell me more about it.
Yeah, it's actually the idea is from one of the viewers. So I was looking for a silly, dumb idea to do for my 100th episode of Rapid Fire Reaper Tutorials. So I made a video, asked people to make suggestions. Somebody was like drawing yourself in Midi, which is like, you've seen people do it. Some people are really good at it. There's a guy called, I think, Glatsis or something. Like he draws like the craziest stuff, and it still makes sense musically. But his idea was to draw yourself. And then I was like, well, that's cool. But what if there was like a JSFX or an external program where you would give it an image and it would just apply like high contrast to it, and it would give you a Midi file. So, I mean, like in Audacity even, you can open a JSFX and it would just read that binary as sound. Or there are programs and plugins where you give them an image, and like just using sine waves, it'll generate an image, and you would see the image on the spectral editor. But a Midi version of this would be cool, where you would give it an image, apply a high contrast, give you a Midi file, and it would be really just like blocky and clusters of notes, but it could still be kind of cute.
Yeah, that is interesting. Now, I don't know if you could do that with JSFX. Not very ergonomically anyway, because first thing that comes to mind is that the JSFX would need to read that image somehow. And there is a way for you to read arbitrary files in JSFX, but it kind of expects the arbitrary files to be either text or audio. And if you wanted to parse images, it would get really strange really quickly. I don't know if it's even possible to do that. But it's definitely possible to do it as a Reaper script. Lua can load any kind of image just fine. And it doesn't even have to be in Reaper, not really, right? It could be like a web page that you just drop an image into and it converts to Midi. It can be a command line tool. Many other ways to interface with this besides just the tools in Reaper. And it's kind of an interesting project because it kind of blends two kinds of signal processing. Digital signal processing is an area that is widely useful. It's not only for audio processing, and definitely not only for real-time audio processing. It can also be used for things like medical devices and radars and imaging. And there's a lot of for instance, we tend to use a lot of fast Fourier transforms. Well, fast Fourier transforms are also super useful for video encoding. It's just that instead of having a signal of audio over time, you have a signal that is pixel data over space. We don't necessarily talk about the time domain, we talk about space. But the principles are similar. They're sort of the same. FFTs still make sense, and it still makes sense to do things like compression and expansion and limiting and filtering, low pass filters, high pass filters. All of those things translate to computing with images as well. So the high contrast thing that you're talking about is probably what you would be interested in is edge detection, because you have a picture of yourself and you would like to capture the contour and transform that into Midi data. And that's definitely possible. Edge detection is one of the classic problems in image processing. So that part is definitely doable. Converting to Midi, also relatively straightforward. You just have to, in your program, sort of picture the piano roll. You have to have a model of the piano roll. And then you have to quantize the edge that you find. And then you output some Midi data. And there are awesome tools for working with images. There are awesome tools for working with Midi. So essentially, it would be finding the right libraries that you want to use, finding the right algorithms that make sense for the kind of inputs that you want to process, stitching everything together. It sounds like a doable thing. It's not like it's not something that I could put out in 1 hour, but it's definitely doable.
Yeah.
And it does sound like fun. And the extra challenging is making it musical, because then you would have to think about the quantization that I mentioned. You have to think about scales. And I guess the most difficult part is timing. You have to think about musical timing of all these notes for it to make sense.
Yeah. I thought it'd be cool, like, if, like your y-axis would be, if it's chromatic, it'd be like MIDI notes 0 to 127. It would just scale the image. But then you could give it a scale. So like the resolution of the image goes down because some of those pixels are eliminated, but the musicality goes up. And the more like pentatonic or like the fewer notes in your scale, like the image may look kind of crappy, but it would like veer towards being really musical. And then I guess on the x-axis, like that could just be just set a tempo or say draw this image over say 16 bars and use eighths or something. And again, I guess faster means more resolution along the x-axis. Yeah, it's a fun idea.
It is a fun idea. In fact, it reminds me of how I first encountered Andrew Huang's channel. Do you know Andrew Huang?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's huge on YouTube. And the first video I found of him was the one in which he draws, I think it's a whale or a unicorn. I think it's a unicorn. He draws a unicorn in Midi. And he, of course, did that by hand. He printed the outline of a unicorn, put it on top of his monitor, and started drawing the thing. And it's like a Baroque harpsichord kind of thing. Super fun. Yeah, I like that.
Cool. So the future project to remember to do at one point.
Absolutely, yes. How about we take note of this, because taking note is always free.
Sure. By the way, did you see there was a Tom Scott video, I know you're a fan, where they are using digital signal processing as a forensic tool. So they're like analyzing audio recordings of phone calls and things like that. And basically like the 50 hertz hum or the 60 hertz hum based on where in the world you are. It's not like a constant 50 hertz. It fluctuates. And those fluctuation like kind of patterns are unique to a date and time if you analyze them over a long period of time. So they use it as a forensic tool because you can analyze that region of the audio recording or a phone call or whatever. And from that, you can get exactly the date and the time. You match it with a database of like these fluctuations of the hum. and then you say, oh, this recording was done like at this day and this time. And it's like super successful as long as you have a long enough recording. If it's a short recording, it could match like, you know, a million different times throughout the day and year. But I thought that was really cool. I don't know if you saw that one.
I have not seen that, but it is very nice. And it's so convenient that for whatever reason they just decided to keep a database of the history of analyzing the hum on the line. I mean, that sounds pretty useless until you know that it can be used for that, but someone decided to keep that information. Cool stuff. And it boils down to a problem of correlation in that case. And it is something that we sort of touched on in the streams when we talked about the fast Fourier transform, because of fast Fourier, or not really the fast Fourier transform, but the discrete Fourier transform. The discrete Fourier transform works by correlating the input signal with the known frequencies, like the sines and cosines. And we talked about how that correlation works, but we haven't really implemented a correlation meter. And definitely not the kind of correlation meter that you would need for that kind of application, where it's not only a correlation meter between left and right channels on an input signal, it's a correlation between you are trying to find where this signal may have occurred in the other longer signal, which is a more challenging problem, because if you do it naively, you're going to spend forever just searching sort of randomly. But there are ways for you to improve on that. And of course, the bigger the recording, the easier it gets. But yeah, it's an interesting thing.
Yeah, fun stuff.
Yeah. But all of that said, do you want to talk about your website?
Sure, yeah. So I updated the tags on the blog posts that I had. And I pushed them, so they are there if you want to get them. And a couple of things that I noticed, and I kind of have a feeling that they require some work on my part, but I thought to ask you if there is a faster way. One is, not all my videos have blog posts. So at the beginning, when I was making videos, I would only make blog posts like every 25 episodes, and I would put all the downloads and everything like in that one blog post. And even more recently, there were some videos where I was like, do I need to make a blog post for this? Like, there's nothing to download. There are no links to like repositories or anything like that. I gave all the information in the video, so I just didn't make a blog post. So I was wondering if there's a way for when there isn't a blog post for us to kind of directly get the video from YouTube. Or I thought, like, if that's not possible, I would basically just make a blog post that's just the YouTube ID of the video, and then just update the tags on that. But I thought to ask you if you were like, oh, you know, type this and boom.
Well, there is nothing like a one-line thing that we can do. But there is something that we can do with a bit more effort, which is to use some YouTube API. I haven't really used any of the YouTube APIs, but I know that you can access YouTube via computer programs. You can write computer programs that are going to access YouTube on your behalf and get data for you. So we could go there and play a trick similar to what we did with the original Wix website, where we scrape the data out of the website. And in this case, it's even more structured because we don't have to deal with just HTML. The YouTube API is a bit higher level than that. So we would fetch all the videos on your channel and their IDs. Then we would try to find the IDs on the website. And the IDs that are not on the website are the videos that you uploaded, but you don't have a corresponding blog post for. Then we can go from there. We can decide what to do. Either create blog posts or create one blog post with everything, or scrape the description of the video and put it as a blog post on, or the contents of a blog post. So that's definitely doable. Yeah.
I guess it feels like, because there's maybe like under 50 videos that don't have blog posts, if it's gonna take your time to do that, I would rather use you for the list and I would just do the manual labor of making those extra stuff. But actually, yeah, the YouTube API is something that like I have some ideas to like make improvements on, because I think the YouTube analytics, as cool as it is, it's missing some really like key things that are probably really easy for somebody like you to give people, and like people would pay for it, or it would just be a great tool to have. Yeah. But anyway, so let's start with what we have.
Okay.
And then take it from there. And then the other thing was,
okay, I'm going to trust that you will remember that. Okay, so you take note of this YouTube idea you just mentioned.
Yeah. The other thing was that I wanted to add a tag for like difficulty. And I thought, okay, like from 1 to 5, I would like rate the videos in difficulty. And then people can sort by that. But then I thought that would not actually be a good idea, because difficulty is like relative. So instead, I guess what I want is for the videos to be organized by the tags, but then a way for me to sort the videos within those tags, just manually, based on like which video I think would be like a good place to start. Just kind of like sort them in a curve from easiest to hardest. And then if new videos come in, instead of me having to be like, oh, well, this is level 2.5, I just place it where I think in that curve it belongs, if that makes sense.
Okay, that makes sense. So I guess to close the subject of the alignment thing that we were talking about, Joseph, who's here, hello, great to have you here, saying
Hi.
that Joran's stereo alignment delay has a correlation meter. And I think that in that case, it's just a correlation meter between left and right channels. So that's the relatively easier task, not the correlation of a signal that you have and a longer signal in which you believe this smaller signal has occurred, and you have to find where it has occurred. That second problem I described is much harder, because you cannot just go from the beginning and try to find it.
Because developing a correlation system like that, like apart from the forensic use, would have so many great uses musically, right? Like going through an audio file and finding every instance where the fundamental frequency is like 440, right?
Yeah, and content ID. As much as we hate that thing, that is based on this fundamental problem of digital signal processing. Right, okay, so you're saying this ordering kind of thing, and it's metadata just the same way that we have tags and dates and whatever else. It's one more piece of metadata, the order. Oh, so Joseph is saying that it's not a one-dimensional simple correlation meter. So yeah, I what is different about it? Tell us more, because I haven't used that plugin. Though we can check it later.
I've used it, but I'm not sure if... Yeah, I didn't pick up on a difference to any other correlation meter on it.
Tell us more. Right, so it's just metadata all the same. And the same question occurs. I asked you last time if you wanted the metadata like tags to be on each blog post, or if you wanted a separate file with the metadata. And you said that for tags and dates and that sort of thing, it makes more sense to put that in the post, which I agree with, by the way. But for this ordering, it can be kind of awkward to do it that way, because if you have an ordering like, let's say, it numbers in the... Okay, to actually show all this, I think what I need to do is get the latest changes so that I will be able to show the tags on the screen. So let's see what I need to do in order to be able to fetch the latest data. First, it seems like I changed some things here that are probably not essential, and I commented some things out for performance reasons and all of that. So I guess I can just revert all my changes on my machine. I can just ignore everything, discard everything that is in here, and then I can pull from GitHub. And are you sure that on your side you committed and pushed everything? Great.
Yeah. I did it like 5 minutes ago. Yeah.
Oh, so we just had one example on the screen. So this is us adding tags and dates and related posts even. And we could have something like order, or maybe the order is related to the tags because the order is going to be one for this tag, but maybe another order for another tag.
Exactly.
I see.
Yeah, that's why I couldn't use them. That's why I couldn't think of like how they would go in those. And also, like, even if I like added a tag and a number, then later I did a video. I guess the logical thing would be to like for me to organize my tutorials the way I publish them in a logical way, but I don't do that. So I may in 2 years do a video that would actually be like a step before a video that I've done today.
Absolutely,
You
yeah.
know what I mean?
So maybe it's just an idea, but maybe what we could do is I guess, the other approach, which is to have something like, let's say at the top level, we could have tags or maybe metadata dot. Let's go with JSON. Yeah, I think I prefer JSON for that. We could do YAML as well. What you are writing here is called YAML, and we could do YAML. But whatever. Let's just say that this is that, and one of the metadata is going to be tags. And then we could have a tag that reads like this. And then in here, you could have maybe a list. And then you put, let's say, the path to this file in the list. Now, the cool thing about doing it this way is that first, we will be able to extract the tag and relate it to the post. So we'll be able to do everything that we wanted to do, as we mentioned last week, to have a page where you see all the tags and all the posts related to the tags, similar to what they have on the video part of the Reaper website. So this would be a tag. This would be the videos under the tag. So we can do all of that. But this also imposes a notion of ordering. And this may be what you want. Because this would be the order in which the videos would appear here. And when adding a new one, you could just add it to the middle. Maybe here you want to add
put it
part
anywhere
3.
you want.
Now, of course, now if you have this approach, then you, when adding a new post, you have to remember to come here to the metadata JSON file or YAML or whatever and update it here as well. But I think that this may be advantageous because we could have something equivalent here where we would have a tag and we would have something related to this tag, which would be maybe called order. And let's say that this is 1. And this over here would have an order, and that's 2. But then if you introduce something in the middle, we would have to put something like 1.5. Or
Also not a huge deal.
it's not the end of the world, but if you wanted to, it's either way is it's fine. It's up to you what you want to do. I'll let you decide. Bo, hello, Bo. Bo is here.
Hello, Bo. Yeah, also, I guess in the tags, I guess I've probably made a bunch of errors. But in the Let's Learn scripting, I didn't add the YouTube IDs, but normally I added dates, YouTube IDs, related videos, and then tags. So on this first one, I guess I forgot the YouTube ID, but whatever. I'll go and like make these editorial changes Because I'm sure I made lots of errors.
Yeah, we'll probably grab the errors as we start writing the code that is going to use the tags, and then we are going to notice the errors as we go. So, so because of this ordering situation that you are talking about, how do you want to go about this? Do you want to go with the order attribute here, and then maybe we can impose something like, there's this old programming language called BASIC, and in BASIC, you have to number each line. These numbers here, they are part of the text editor. They're not part of the text file. But in BASIC, you had to literally write like instruction one.
You manually, yeah.
And the convention was that you would number in tens. I'm not sure. I haven't been around for that long. I am not from the 80s, so I don't know. But I think that one of the reasons may be that you may want to be able to say something like this, right? Where you would be able to change your program like that without having to change everything after it. In any case, we can impose that kind of convention where you order everything in multiples of 10, or we can use decimal values as well. It's up to you.
I guess my issue with this would be that I would need to like consult the list on another page and then put it in. Yeah, I'm okay with this. I can do the order thing. Yeah.
Okay. So you want to do it like this?
I'm okay with the JSON too. Boop, 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 boop. I guess. Okay, so I guess, yeah, the JSON way, the benefit to that is that it's like a centralized location. And also, I can't decide. I mean, yeah, what's your opinion on this?
Oh, there's actually a third option that now that I think of. But it's an awkward one. But it is something. So instead of having an order, you could have a notion of the previous post on this
previous
chain.
And next.
And then you would say that because this is number 2, then you could say that this fellow is the previous one. So if you wanted to splice something in the middle, you would have to change the one that you are creating, of course, but you would only have to change the next one and point it to the current one, if that makes sense. So, so if you have something like posts 1, 2, and 3, and you want to add something between 2 and 3, it's not 2.5. No, it's just that now post 3 is not going to point to 2. It's going to point to 4, let's say. And 4, the one you are adding, is going to point to 2. So that's another option. It's actually the thing that we are doing is very mundane. It's kind of trivial, but it is touching on so many interesting concepts in computer science. The notion that I just talked about, where you include a pointer to the previous one, that is something called a linked list, which is one of the fundamental data structures in computer science. And the whole problem of, do we include this information in every post, or do we have a centralized location that knows of every post? This is it's related to a fundamental problem in how you organize programs. There is the more functional approach and the object-oriented approach. And in the object-oriented approach, you go with something like this. You couple the metadata with the existing data, or in object-oriented programming, you couple data with methods that act on the data. Whereas in functional programming, you sort of break the two apart. You put all your data in one place and the functions that are going to operate on the data in another place. So it's kind of a silly thing that we are doing here, but it's touching on so many core concepts of how to organize knowledge and thinking. And I appreciate that.
I think I like the JSON idea now that you mentioned all of this, because like I can like a centralized idea. It's just, I guess, better for this in case I also decide to change something or add something else. Do it all from like a centralized location, because I guess like one issue I see coming up is also when I want to, if I have to put the tags in the videos themselves. As I was doing these tags, I ran into the same issue where I was like doing the related post. It's like, okay, well, these numbers don't really tell me anything. So I got to go like back one level and find the related, because I know what video it is, but I don't know the number. So I guess having them in a centralized location, I can even add comments of like what video is what topic. Like what number corresponds to what topic, and that way it would just be easier for me, I think, to keep track of everything. So let's go with metadata.
Okay, and we can go with a hybrid approach. Things that may make more sense in the post can go with the post. For instance, the date. Something that makes sense when you're writing a post, you date the post. And then maybe later you're going to categorize the post and find the related posts and all of that. But maybe the date is something that could live here. So we could go with both. This is called a front matter. So we can go with both a front matter as well as a metadata.json kind of file.
Could it be that everything is in the post? So the tags are in the post of like the category tags, and then the date is in the post, and the YouTube ID is in the post, and related posts is in the post. Only the order is in metadata.json.
Absolutely, yeah. Whatever you think is going to be more ergonomic for you. I guess that's the advantage.
Cool. I think that's...
We are going with a bespoke approach here for creating a website, right? We are not using any of the Wix or the WordPresses or even the Jackals and Hugos and all these other static website generators. There is a whole lot of static website generators, Gatsby, Next.js, and so forth. We are not going with any of them. We are creating our own. And I guess that's the disadvantage of doing that, of course, is that it's a bit more work. But the advantage is that it is going to work exactly how you think it should. If you think that it's better to have all the metadata here, but the metadata JSON file, or maybe we can call it tags.json or whatever, that piece of information, the ordering, could be in a separate place. Fine. That's how it's going to work.
Cool.
So, I guess you already have some homework, which is to come up with this file, right?
Sure. So that's just doing it manually, right?
Yeah, I think that we can get you started by... Actually, this could be our task for the main programming section today. To read this front matter, we need to write some code that is actually going to read this, right? So we need to write some code that is going to read this front matter. And one of the end goals is to create the pages, like the one I showed. That's one of the goals. That's the main goal.
Yeah.
But we can... Just to get ourselves started, we can just write some code that is going to read this metadata, and we can produce a metadata.json or maybe ordering.json, whatever we want to call it. We can produce this file, and it's going to produce the lists in arbitrary order, but it's going to put everything in its right place. So if you have this post with this tag, it is going to show up here, and then later all you got to do is just go reorder, and you're good.
Let's do that.
All right.
Cool. Let's do that.
Okay. So I am going to treat this as sort of a migration kind of thing. It's not really a migration like when we were migrating data from Wix. That was a proper migration. But I'm going to treat this as a separate kind of task. I'm not going to include it in the main file that is our static website generator. I'm going to start something else. I'm going to call this like... How do you want to call the actual file? Do you want to call it tags.json, metadata.json?
Short tags.json.
Okay. So call this tags.js. That's the file that is going to generate tags.json. And we do need to introduce a dependency for reading that front matter. And Last time I thought it was called black matter or dark matter. It's actually called gray matter. And we need to install that. So let's grab this command and install gray matter. That is going to change two files, package.json and package.json lock, just introducing the dependency. I'm going to commit that. And then over here, we can use gray matter. Let's see how it is used. You require it. Then you just call it as a function. That's easy. I think I prefer to call this gray matter. And let's just try the example that they have here to see if that works. And it does not, because I renamed the import. But now it does. So next step is we have to not read from this static string, but instead read from all the files. And we do already have some logic over here on the main static website generator that is going to find all the Markdown files, and it is going to, in that case, render the Markdown. So here we have a file Markdown, and it is going to read that and call the Markdown processor. So we're going to borrow some of the logic from here to find all the Markdown files and whatnot. But instead of rendering the Markdown, we are going to process the front matter. And I think that what I want is mostly this loop. And we do need to import the dependencies. So let's go ahead and find it here. We probably will also want to read some files. So fs is probably going to be useful as well. And because we are doing something that is asynchronous, we need to wrap all of this in this ceremony. That is, by the way, becoming obsolete now. So at some point, we may want to migrate this project to ECMAScript 6, where we can not have this preamble, and everyone will be happier. So Globby is here, and it's going to find all the files. So now what we have to do is actually read the file. And it's similar to what we do here, except that instead of calling the Markdown processor, we are going to pass it to gray matter. And if I just run that, then we see a lot of things, because now for every Markdown file in the site, we are parsing the front matter. We are getting the data, which is the front matter, structured, like tags is a list of this, and date is actually, oh, look at that. It parsed that as a date object.
Yeah.
Cool. And then the YouTube thing and the related post is a list and all of that. But there is also another field here that is of interest. It's the content field, because this is the Markdown that we pass to the Markdown processor. In our little task of just producing the text.json file, we are not really interested in the content, but of course, for everything else, we will be interested in the content. Right now, we are only interested in the data. So let's see if we can just get a hold of the data. This is going to print less stuff, but still a lot. Just the data, right? That's good.
Awesome.
So now instead of printing that, how about we collect that on, I'm going to call this tags. It's going to be a list. To begin with, the list is empty. And instead of printing, we are going to push into that list. Now, when I run this, nothing comes up because I'm just pushing in there, but I'm not outputting anything. But now let's output something. Let's output tags. That's kind of a silly exercise. The output is going to be very similar, but now we have a hold of this in a data structure that we control. Next, let's think about the structure that we want for tags.json. I started sketching something before. In fact, do you want to work with JSON? That's a question, because when you are writing the posts, you are writing this in YAML.
Markdown.
This is in YAML.
Okay, I see.
And it's just a different way of writing. Instead of having this and then a bracket, you have a new line and then a dash. It's a different syntax for expressing the same idea. So if you look at this and if you look at this, which one do you prefer to work on?
So this is a purely like syntax question, I guess, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I guess I'm super impartial to either. The YAML looks like it has fewer like brackets and commas and things.
Fair. Yeah, so the story is that back in the day, JSON existed, but people considered that JSON was not as easy for human beings to write in as other things. So they came up with YAML, and YAML is great, but also terrible. It's great because there are fewer, I guess, there is less punctuation, but there is hidden semantics. This space is significant. This is the space that says that this list item belongs to this. If I remove the space, if I remove one space, it's no longer valid YAML. And like that, there are all sorts of small little magic things. So if it was me, I would work with JSON because the semantics is very clear and no peekaboos. But some systems work with YAML, like the frontmatter typically uses YAML. It can use JSON, but typically uses YAML. And if you look at like Node.js, it's using JSON. And this is JSON that humans are supposed to read and write. But if you look at GitHub, they are, let me go to a project where I configure something for GitHub. They use YAML instead. So it is a matter of preference. This is YAML, and it configures stuff on GitHub. So if my vote goes for JSON, I prefer to work with JSON, but I'll let you decide.
Okay, let's go JSON.
Okay, so tags.json is going to be our file, and I guess it is just going to be an object where we have tags, for instance, this, mapping to a list of some elements that may be like maybe the path for the file, something like this.
Yeah, that's how I was imagining it.
Okay, great. So let's try to produce some JSON that sort of looks like this. So I guess that this thing that I'm calling tags is not really the tags, it's the metadata. And then we need to get a hold of just all the tags, which is going to be traversing this list and then traversing these lists and putting all of this together. And I'm going to say that the tags start as a new set. There isn't really a notion of ordering here, so I'll call this a set. And at the end, I'm going to want to print the tags. So now what I'm going to do is go over the metadata. And metadata, well, I guess I can do it like this. So for each one of these elements, there is a tags a field. So I get a hold of the tags directly. Oh, and then this variable name is going to become ambiguous.
By the way, quick question on that. It seems like in the list that we generated in the terminal, it's making a mistake where related posts, which is supposed to be a tag title, is actually part of the YouTube tag ID, and I'm wondering if that's because I made a syntax error with the YAML.
No. You're don't worry about it. The thing is just in JSON. Well, not really in JSON. Here, I can print this in a different way. It has to do with the console log that I did, okay? It's just a way of presenting things, but let me show that as JSON. So this is how you do it. And because we want it to be nice looking and not just a single string, I'll pass these two parameters to format the thing. And now we are not interested in alt tags. We are actually interested in metadata. And this is what the JSON looks like.
Oh, okay, cool.
Okay, so coming back to the issue of finding all the tags, because we will need them for the top level of our little tags.json file. So I will check if you have a tag on the file, right? Because I'm pretty sure that, well, maybe not. Let's see if that failing, if it fails. So the tags are a list in and of themselves. And I can just add them to the list of all tags. So I'll say all tags dot add the tags, just like that. And then instead of printing the metadata, let's print all tags this time. And yeah, I thought so. There is some file somewhere where you have not defined tags, maybe because it doesn't even make sense, like in the index. Right? It doesn't make sense to define tags here. So in that file, the tags don't exist. So I have to check. If tags are equal to undefined, I'm going to continue, which means don't run the rest of the code on this block. Just continue to the next piece of metadata. And then I need brackets around all of this, and then we can rerun it. So this is a list of all the tags, but when you print it as JSON, it comes out empty. Let's try this again. Here are all the tags. There are 19 of them. I guess this is a good point where you can see if you made some typos when writing this. I don't think there are any. I think you did a good job.
I don't think so.
Let's LERANR, right? And there aren't any.
I mean, there are some where I'm like, maybe I could have named them better, but spelling wise, I think I did okay.
Yeah, if you want to change, this tag, for instance, right? You can just come here in Visual Studio Code and do a global search and replace. It's going to touch all the files with that tag. And then you can say like yada, yada. And then you click here, it's going to replace everywhere and you're good to go. So
nice.
It's no big deal.
Cool.
Right, so now we have all the tags. And remember how I said that this is the fundamental dichotomy between object-oriented and functional. And there are wars about this. Who is right? What is better, object-oriented or functional? And I guess these days the community is finding that the best answer is both. Most languages these days have some functional features and some object-oriented features. JavaScript certainly has both since the beginning. And even languages that were firmly on the object-oriented camp, like Java, nowadays they have features of functional programming languages like lambdas. And similarly, languages that are firmly on the camp of functional programming like OCaml or ML. Nowadays there is OCaml, which tries to bring object-oriented programming into there. And there are languages like Scala that have all the features from both camps. So it's just nice to finally everyone can calm down and find that the answer is both. And that's what we are finding here as well.
The answer is always both.
Yeah, that's what we are finding here. It's better to have this
where there's like a big war. Yeah.
The problem is that many languages have a strong culture around them, maybe because of who created the language or because of who uses the language. So you often hear that, people who write in language X don't know what they're doing and that sort of thing, which is complete BS. But it's a cultural thing. I guess it it's the same as like people who use $y are like that, and it's just complete BS. Right. So moving forward, we already have all the tags. Now, what we want to do is to traverse the tags and find the posts for which those tags belong, right? So one thing that I think we are missing here on the metadata is whatever we are going to put here. I think that putting the file name here makes sense, but do you disagree? Do you want to put something else to identify the post?
I mean, could it be just, I mean, ideally it would be the title of the blog post.
Oh, sure.
So it would be like the relative path, and then it would be the title of the blog post. But if I'm being really like nitpicky, would be nice if we have a way of, well, that could be my own fuck up. Cause every video that I do, at the end it says brackets, rapid fire repair tutorials, episode, blah, blah, blah. It'd be cool if we could strip that, but then with other series, it may not be there. So that could be tough to do.
Can you show me an example of what you're talking about?
So go to your RFRT, right? So in the title of this one, blah, 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 and then rapid fire repertoire. So removing that should be relatively easy, but I guess not every blog post has that. Like in the sound design stuff, they go at the beginning, which again is an issue with me just tiling things all weird all the time. But
that's super easy to fix too, okay? Can I show you a cool trick?
Sure.
I just showed how you can do global search and replace on the whole project, right? The next trick is that you can search for something like this, and it is going to find this in multiple places. Okay, we can ignore the HTML file because those are generated. We can stick with the Markdown files. In fact, we can even come here and say that we only want to search in .markdown files. Right.
Yeah.
But, of course, this number is going to change, right? So we can use regular expressions, which are like Lua patterns. And when you enable this, you have more powers. First, you have to put backslashes to escape the parentheses because they mean something in regular expressions. But then we can say, I want a number of digits here. And now it's going to find all of them. Okay, cool. That's cool. And then you can do a replacement. Well, the replacement actually involves the rest of the line. So we have to match on the rest of the line. So let's go from the beginning of the line up to where we have that. And now it's matching the whole thing. It's matching the whole thing, right? But let's get a hold of this number. The parentheses that I said have a special meaning. The meaning is that we are capturing that. And then we can do a replacement where we'll have something like brackets. Let's have the same as this. And then at this position, we want to have this number, which is the second capture group. This is the first. So we say \2. And I may have this wrong because I see the replacement is not showing this right. And then we want to have a space and then whatever we captured here, like this. And I don't know why this is not showing as it should. Because it should be doing a replacement in this position. Is it maybe that? Yes, okay. There you go.
Okay.
So, and I guess there are these two hash marks in the beginning that we want to ignore. So we can...
so this is to make it go to the beginning of the thing.
Yep. So now it's going to systematically... can I open this in a buffer? I know there is a way to do this, but I forget how to do it. Is it like this? Open new search editor. There you go. And then I have more space for that. Oh, but it doesn't carry the settings. Isn't that cute? And there is no replacement thing here. No, that just sucks. Whatever. So yeah, this is going to rename.
Just move the stuff to the beginning.
Yeah, it's going to change this to be similar to the other pattern that you have?
I guess what I want is to just get rid of these when they're showing the title. So I want them to remain on the blog so that it's like the same, because that's, I guess, an SEO thing where the title of your video on YouTube and the title of the blog post match. But just when we view that list, like this feels like redundant because it would be repeated over and over and over again.
Okay.
And like, I guess even if it generates it with that, I just need to like erase it, and then with other like videos where that may have been named differently, I'll just manually delete those, or manually just delete the redundant bits, because I don't know, like I even thought of like finding like the brackets in the title and getting rid of that, but that could be somewhere else brackets used. So
yeah, you can, if you want, do this kind of global search and replace. So don't feel like you have to do everything by hand. And I know that there is some incantation that goes into this. Getting a hold of regular expressions is difficult, so sometimes it can be challenging to write this magic. But if you know something like the thing I just mentioned, where you want it to be in the beginning and you want it to be enclosed with brackets, all that good stuff, it's relatively straightforward to do, and it can help you do that. But that was a tangent, because we were actually talking about generating the JSON tags, or the tags JSON, right? And we were talking about what we want to include here, right? So you're saying that the thing that you want is to have the title.
The thing that people would see, I guess, but I guess the HTML still needs to see the relative path.
Well, this is for you. This is not what people are going to see when they go to the website. This is only for you. We will use this information to go and find what we need to find to display what we want to display. And this is mainly for you. So using this is convenient, because if I have this, I know exactly where to go, right, in the file system. So writing code for this will be much simpler. But if you say that, no, really, what I need is to have the title here, that's how I operate, then it's okay.
Can I have both?
How would that look?
So like it would be basically like so it would be like blog /LLS2 and the title. So from the path, I'll know the path, but I'll also know the title in case I'm like, what was episode 59?
Okay.
You know what I mean?
And I guess what we are going to do is we can do it like this, but in our code, we can be happy to just ignore this, because if you ever change the title like we just talked about, or if you want to change the title for whatever other reason, if you want to change the title there, I don't want to necessarily have you remember to come in here and change it as well. So this is only for you. We are going to use this. You can use that. Or maybe we can even structure this a bit more tersely if you want, by doing it like this, where we have this as a key and this as an object. So it's a bit shorter. We can have it like this if you want.
Yeah, that looks great.
Awesome. So
that looks awesome.
In our little loop here, we are getting a hold of all the data, but we are not storing in the metadata object the path to the file. And that's what we need to do. So I will add the data that I'm getting from the file, but also I think I'm gonna call this file Markdown, because that's what it was named. So now let's take a moment to print the metadata, see what it looks like. I'm going to comment all of this out for now. Rerun. So now, besides the tags, date, YouTube, and related posts, we also have a path to the file. Great. So now we can visit all the tags that we have already collected, and we check if there are tags in that file, or in that piece of metadata. There are tags in that piece of metadata. And yeah, so this is just us collecting all the tags. Great. So now that this loop is over, we can loop over all tags, because we are going to write this. So I'm going to call this the output. Our output is an object, right? So I'm going to start with an object. And then I'm going to say that I'm going to put these two side by side so we can refer to it. So our output here is this whole object. The object has fields. One of the fields is the tag. So the tag is the field, just like that. And then what do we have in there? Well, we have a list. So I'm going to say that this is a list. And what do we have in that list? We have objects. So what are these objects? Well, they are all the posts that refer to this tag. So maybe let's have a variable that we call posts with tag. It starts empty. That's what we are going to assign at the end. And then we need to traverse all the metadata. And again, we are getting a hold of the tags of the metadata. And if the tags are undefined, continue. If the tags include, I think it's actually includes, the tag that we are currently at, then we are going to push into posts another one of these objects. And what is in this object? Well, it's an object that has as a key what I'm calling file Markdown. So I also need to get a hold of that over here. And as the value, we have the title of the post. And that we currently haven't really captured here. So for now, I'm just going to put a null there, or I'm going to put a to-do there, and we'll revisit this in a moment.
Cool.
Let's see what this looks like right now. I'm going to, maybe not, I'm just going to output this. Okay, so this is starting to look like that object. It has the fields, it's an object. It has the fields with the tags, and then it has a list, and each element in the list is an object, and the key of the object is the name of the file, but there's just the value here, it's not there. So now we need to do a bit of extra work to extract that. Let's revisit the part where we are getting the data from the file. Besides just the gray matter or the front matter, let's look at an example of what a file looks like. Besides just this, I also want to get the title of the file, right? So now we need to actually use the content from what gray matter returns. So let's elaborate on this. This is going to become a little bit more complicated, so need more lines here. I'll call this I don't know what to call this.
Okay.
Or maybe I know what to call this. I'll call this data and content. And this is what gray matter returns, right? We learned that it returns data and content. So over here, I will want to push the data because I want everything else to continue working. So let's see if I do this, if I didn't break anything. I didn't. Next. Oh, did you see that? There is a tag with a single post.
There is one that... Oh, okay. I guess that's when I decided that having a tag for difficulty is kind of dumb. So yeah, that may be updated or abandoned or something.
Yeah, and we'll keep these scripts around, I guess, the same way that we are keeping the whole migration around. So if at some point you decide to switch tags around a little bit, we can run this again and produce another one of these. And then, of course, you can ignore most of it and just go for the parts that actually change, copy and paste, and do the surgery. Right. So now we have the data, but we also have the content. And with the content, we can parse it. So let's go to index.js where we have parse, so we can see how we're doing that. Remember how I got punched in the face when I was trying to do that? Now I can just copy and paste all of that. And then let's find where I used unified. And I can put it here. And then let's see where I'm using the Markdown processor. And then I can do that. Oh, and look at that. We are going to need to read this file in two places. So I'll say that file contents, or maybe just Markdown, right? Is equal to this. Oh, no, not quite, not quite. It's the content that we want to parse. So we don't need to read the file in two places. All I need to do is just call the Markdown processor and tell it to process stuff. So now we want it to process stuff. We want to process the content in particular. And this is going to give us some HTML. And this HTML we can pass to JS DOM. So that's what we are going to do next. And we can say new JS, or actually we can use JS DOM dot fragment and give it the HTML. And then first element child. This is going to get us, oh no. No, that's not gonna work. Can I do query selector on this guy? Yes. And I see that all your posts have a heading of level 2. So I'll have a heading of level 2 here. I will get a hold of that, and that is going to be, this is not really my document. This is my heading. And I guess I can just say that this is going to be our title and get a heading and get its text content. And then this is going to collect the text content. So over here, I'll have access to that in the form of title. And I can put the title here. Now this is going to be a bit slower because you will have to process the Markdown from all the files. But let's leave it running and see what comes out. Okay, it didn't find the heading. So we can put a question mark here and it's going to say, okay, if I don't have a heading, I'll just output undefined instead. And here we are.
Cool.
What else do we want to do? I guess we want to probably, instead of outputting this to the console, we probably want to write this to a file called tags.json, and we can look at it. And then, oh no, this is an object I need to parse. I need to produce JSON out of this. Undefined and 2, make it pretty. And then check this out, no hands, bam, here's your file. Woo. Now it's your job to come here and reorder stuff as you see fit.
Cool.
I'm going to commit both the file that generates tags.json as well as the current tags.json if you don't want to run the file yourself. I'm going to push this, and now you have homework.
Okay, and that's to order them.
Yes.
Okay. And then once I order them, or even if there's time, can we do it now? Can we just now generate a page from this, and then as I do the order, it would be similar to like when I update a blog, I just save the Markdown and it'll generate the page. It would essentially be that system here as well.
Yes, let's go over that. So over here in the index.js file, which is our main static website generator, let me see if I run index.js if it is going to take a while. Oh, yes, it is. I know for a fact because we are regenerating every time I change the file and I keep changing the file. So I will have to do the same trick I did last week and I'm going to comment some things out. But of course, I will not commit this part. But let's go over here and create another one of these files. Instead of being blog index, let's say that this is going to be tags/index. Or actually, I guess this is a good time for us to think about this. Where do you want this to appear on your website? Or this?
I guess it would be great if it's iddqdesign/blog. Because I think currently, if you go there, that's just a random list of stuff.
Okay. So in that case, I am going to comment.
I think. Let me make sure about that. Yeah. If you go on their blog, it's just images and titles. So I guess if that changes to the old thingamajig, that would be great.
Sure, absolutely. Let's do that. First of all, one thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to run my formatter on this file, and I want to commit the changes that it produces because I think they're not going to be important, but I don't want them to be in the middle of anything else that we end up doing. Great, so let's find where we are outputting this current file, because there already exists a file there, the file that you just referred to, and we are going to change what's in there instead of creating a new one. And I will have to comment out, I guess, this whole section. And let's npm start. Let's see if we run into any errors. No, we don't. So let me go to my browser and go to localhost. And this was supposed to be fast, so something else is going on. The server is supposed to be running. That's odd.
Could there be another program running that's
works
doing a thing?
Oh, okay. I didn't specify HTTPS and HTTP. In Safari, I was running HTTPS. Over here, I'm running HTTP, whatever. So this is the page that we want to replace. Now let's go to the code that generates this page, which is right here. And then we have a loop here that is just going over all the files in the folder. And that's not what we want to do now. We don't want to go over all the files in the folder. Instead, we want to go over the tags.json file, right? So let's await fs read file of tags.json. And we have to say what the encoding of the file is. It's that. Then we can JSON parse the result of that. And then this is an object that looks exactly like output from here. An object that looks exactly like this. And then what we want to do is probably to go over all the keys in that object, right? Or all the keys in this. So let's learn scripting in Reaper, for instance. So let's do that. Let's object values. I would probably want the keys as well as the values, so I probably want pairs. Yeah, that sounds reasonable. And then let's make a list out of this, just to make things easier for us. And then let's map over the list. And now each of the elements is going to be the tag and then a list of blog posts. So I'll call this the tag and posts. Great. And then let's try a simple thing, which is to just print details and then summary, where the contents of the summary is going to be the tag. And everything else that is in here is probably junk. So I'll put it in this buffer in case we need to refer to it, but it's probably junk. So there is a mistake in here somewhere. Let's try to catch it. It's probably missing that. There you go. So now when I run this, it should rerun and it crashes. It's not pairs. What is it? It's not a function, or its return value is not iterable. So what is it? Is it pair? I forget. Object dot, help me out. Values to string seal. Entries, that's what it is.
Maybe add just a P. Oh.
There you go. So that ran, and then we refresh, and we can see all the tags.
Cool.
And they don't have the posts underneath them. So now let's put the posts in there. So for that, we need to go over here. Let's put some new lines in here to make things easier to read. And in here, we go over the posts. The posts look like a key and a value. And the key is what we are interested in. The value we are going to ignore. Remember, we are not ignore it. We're not going to ignore it right now for this prototype. We are going to use this as the title, but right. I don't want to really rely on this. Whatever. So I guess we will have to do a similar trick here with the entries kind of thing, but it's going to look a little bit different. So object.entries of this, but we know for a fact that there is only one, right? There's only one here.
Of each entry?
Or maybe, why do we do it this way? Why do we have a list where each element in the list is an object? That's silly. We could just have a single object with this is a key, this is a value, this is a key, this is a value. That makes a lot more sense, right?
Hey, you tell me.
Yeah, let's do that instead. So post with tags is going to be an object.
But I guess if your question is, there are videos that are under more than one category.
But that's fine. It's going to appear here in multiple places.
Okay.
That's no problem.
Yeah.
But it's not the case that you will want to list the same post twice under the same tag. So it's fine.
Oh, no, never. Yeah.
So this is going to change this file, right? To do the thing that we just talked about. Let's rerun tags.js. And then when you look at it, now it's a lot saner. Great. So I will commit the changes to these two files. Let's return to index.js. So over here, the posts will have entries, and we will want to turn that into a list so that we can map. And in the map, we are going to have a key and a value. The key is the file name, so I'm going to call this the URL, and the other one is going to be the title. Or actually, I'm going to call this like don't really use this. And then over here, we can have a link that points to the URL, except that the URL here is in terms of Markdown, and I want it to be in terms of HTML. So I'm going to take the URL, I'm going to slice from the beginning up to .markdown, and I'm going to put .html at the end. Or I may not need that at all, right? You don't need index.html at all for the link. So just strip all of that from the end.
Oh, just, yeah.
And as the content of that link.
You have two .mds.
Thanks for saying that. So now, when we refresh this, kind of looks like the thing that you would see on the... Not really. Doesn't really work. Why is that? Let's see.
Maybe it just didn't get refreshed. I have this problem with the local host. There we go.
Yeah, this is sort of like what you see under Reaper.fm, right?
Yeah.
Great. So I have to call it a day now. I'm going to wrap this up. I am not going to push blog/index.html. I'll not push that because I don't want to actually change our website. But let's push some of the changes we made to the index.js file. So all of this that we commented out, we want to revert, right-click, revert. I want to commit that. And all of these changes, we don't really want to have them right now, because if you ever run the script, it's going to break our website. So we don't really want to do that. What we want is to grab all of these.
What does someone say?
Put it here so that it's back to a working state. And all of that we made today, we are going to comment out, because this is what we are actually building towards. So now the changes to the file are only
at
this.
the end, is that irrelevant? Line 525.
Oh, this is just closing this incantation here that won't be necessary once we migrate.
Okay.
And okay, so that's that. I'm going to commit this. And tomorrow, Bo is asking what is up for the stream tomorrow. I will be back to my library, and I think that what we need to do is to continue working on the design system. We are still migrating stuff from the design system, so yeah, I'll continue working on that. And that's it for now.
Well, thank you. That was really fun to watch. I actually syntax aside, I got how stuff works this time, which is nice.
Great. Yeah, and I wrote... Yeah. Oh, we ended up not needing this. So I tried to write code, at least on this file, that is in a style that you could write in Lua. It's not super idiomatic, but it's in a style that you could write in Lua. There are some things that you cannot do in Lua. The Lua designers decided that this feature here, it's something called the structuring assignment. They decided that this is too much of magic going on. We're not going to do that in Lua. But the way that we are building the metadata array and then pushing into that, it's not super idiomatic. We could just have mapped over this, but I tried to write it this way because I thought it was going to be more straightforward. And Bo is mentioning something that I want to touch on, which is the C++ juice thing, that the study group that we want to get off the ground. So I think that maybe the best way... I opened my calendar on the stream. You shouldn't do that. But I'm about to receive some cheese over the mail. We are going to have some cheese delivered on Wednesday. That's what this means. But yeah, I want to start it on the 1st. I think it's a new month, new beginnings. So it's going to be next Tuesday, not tomorrow, but next Tuesday. So people who are interested can go to the Discord, where the unofficial Reaper user group Discord, and in there we're going to coordinate all things. And I guess on Tuesday we'll meet for the first time and we will talk about what are we going to do, who is involved in the thing, and that sort of thing. Yeah. All right.
Cool.
I think that's it for now. Thank you very much, Arya, for letting me play around with your website like that. Your website is definitely more complicated than my personal website at liafak.com and the other static websites that I'm generating using this approach. So it really is a test bed for how powerful this approach can be.
Cool. Good to know. And yeah, thank you for all the time you put in it. It's looking really good. Really dig in that list structure. So I guess my homework still is to go to tags.json and order it how I like it.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, and I'll I guess I gotta add extra blocks for videos that don't exist.
Something stands out here. You probably want to order this alphabetically to begin with, right?
Right, because some things are episodic.
Yeah.
Or date-actually.
Yeah, so you could try to go into tags.js and sort all of this by alphabetically. It isn't too complicated, I don't think. Let's see.
Is it in JS? No, never mind.
Yeah, it would right here at the end where we have the posts with tags. So this is that object. This is that. Mm-hmm. So you would have to sort the keys on this object. Mm-hmm. I'll leave that as an exercise if you are interested. But I think there are so few posts here that it's probably better to just do it by hand, but whatever.
Too many. And I guess I'll make extra videos for the episodes that don't even have a blog post yet. I'll make those like 50 extra.
Okay. And remember that when you create posts, you want to add them as Markdown files, but also you want to add them here. So 2 things to keep track of. All right. So thank you very much, Arya.
Oh, sorry. One quick question about that. So when I make a new blog, I just run the index.js. Again, it generates the tags.json, right?
No. The file that is going to be... So you will have to touch 2 files every time. You will have to create or change the index.md files for each blog post. Mm-hmm. But the tags.json is not going to be changed for you. You will have to come in here and add a new entry. So if you want to add it to this tag, you have to add the tag here, and then you have to come here and find the right tag and add it here as well.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I'm not running the tags.json every time because if I did, you would lose the order.
Oh, okay, I see. So since I have control, I have control. Okay, gotcha.
You opted into this. Right.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
So I guess I see you back on Wednesday for the orchestral thing. I finished that.
Ooh. Okay, I may have to cancel Wednesday because I may have a dentist appointment then, and I will only know tomorrow. Is that okay? I'll let you know tomorrow. Because tomorrow I have a dentist, and they said you may come 2 days in a row. So if that happened, we can postpone to Thursday or just take a week break, whatever works for you.
Yeah, we'll figure something out. All right, cool. So thank you very much, and thank you all for being here. Thank you, Joseph, Bo, and everyone else. Thank you for everyone who supports on Patreon, PayPal, all that good stuff. And I see you back here tomorrow for some more JSFX and a design system. Bye.
Bye, everyone.